All right, hey everybody, Josh from SILCA here, and oh my goodness, I cannot believe that Unbound Gravel is upon us 1 week from right now. I kind of can't believe it. I opened my inbox and I had about 4 chain lubricant questions from some of the top contenders, or we expect to be top contenders this weekend, and I thought, oh my goodness, I've completely forgotten this was upon us, and well, we have some new data to help all of you make some decisions, so I'm pretty excited about that. So, first things first, Unbound Gravel, coming up in Emporia, Kansas. Tends to be super dry, dusty, you know, it's that flint covered, the tire pressure is huge, and use the tire pressure calculator. There's a lot of Dirty Conzo winter test data in the tire pressure calculator, linked right here below if you're interested. But there's also a ton of opportunity from a chain lube perspective. You know, we've got a 50-mile event, a 100-mile event, and a 200-mile event. That is ridiculous to say. And it's probably going to be dry and dusty, but man, if it rains, it is going to be sloppy, sticky, gunky. I mean, we're talking like derailleur destroying, derailleur hanger failing slop at Unbound. So, tons of questions coming in. It just so happens we are now complete with, well, some data that's also on our site. We can, we'll link you to this right here below, but some zero friction cycling data. This is their newest chart of chain longevity with different lubricants. SILCA wins 2 out of 3 categories and second place in the category that we didn't outright win in. But we've also got this, which we'll also post below. And this is something that Adam at Zero Friction's been working on that's quite fascinating. This is the single application longevity and recommendations for a single event, right? So people are constantly asking me, you know, what do I do for a 24-hour? What do I do for, you know, Unbound 200? We have the answer for you. So let's get going. First, keep your bike clean. If you haven't tried SILCA gear wipes, they're amazing. Just the test riding, the day before type stuff. These things can be a huge difference, I mean, make or break in terms of trying to get some of the dusty, dirty grit out of the bike. If you're doing the 100 or the 200, I cannot recommend enough the single pack SILCA gear wipes. If you haven't seen these, you know, each one of these, well, let's pull one out. Each one of these is a large wet towel. It's got a scrubby side and a soft side. It's safe on all paints and finishes. They smell nice. They work remarkably well. Like I said, I think some of you have heard me tell this story, but when we bought Hirobel, they were selling this wipe, and I thought, you know, what a ridiculous product. I don't think there's any room for that in our lineup. And then we all started using them, and we're kind of looking at each other going like, these are pretty awesome. So it's a good user experience. It could be a day saver for some of these longer events like Unbound 200. Why is that? Well, what's happening when your chain lubricant fails at an event like this is really a couple of things. It's either being all squeezed out and the chain's running dry, or more likely, it's being squeezed out and replaced with dust that's being pulled in by residual lubricant, and eventually you're just grinding along with this sort of grinding paste, what we would refer to as like a lapping compound of dirt and sand with residual chain lubricant that is just grinding away at the chain. So it's making you slow. I mean, we're talking like up to 20 watts efficiency loss on a 250 watt input in our testing. So it's making you slow, but it's also destroying your drivetrain, destroying the chain, eats away at your chain rings and cogs. So just a quick wipe down mid-event, you know, if you have a snack break or something, especially at the 200, you know, stop at the gas station for some moon pies. A quick wipe down and a relube could be an absolute day saver for you, particularly if it's wet, because the presence of the lubricant, the wet lubricant on these surfaces can really help shed some of that mud and muck on the wet day. So first of all, let's go to Zero Friction's data, right? I mean, you can come check this out below, but wet lube category, lowest wearing wet lube ever, SILCA Synergetic. So super proud of the team on this one. We actually show, it's the first wet lube to ever show a 0.0% wear in dry conditions. And even with dry, sandy conditions, 18% worn, as opposed to our own NFS, SILCA NFS product, which was 13% worn in block 1 and 40% worn in the dry contamination block. So Synergetic's an awesome product, but it is going to get dirty and dusty in those dusty conditions. The better product, if it's dry, is going to be the hot melt wax, this stuff, Super Secret Chain Blend. The main reason is you dip your chain in it, you pull it out, you get it on the bike. There is no room for dust and dirt to get into the chain. So your chain is going to stay super clean and lubricated for really a whole 200 miles. I look at the data set here. He's got 300 kilometers in dry, dusty gravel conditions in his single application test, and that is essentially the test machine running while spraying sand and dirt onto the chain in hot, dry conditions. So 300K before the friction noticeably increases and the wear starts to increase. So you could make the entire Unbound 200 on a dry day with hot melt, and you're going to be running at about 1 watt to 2 watts more efficient than any other chain lube option out there. Now it's come up. Should I put something like Super Secret over top of hot melt if I'm doing the 200? I wouldn't worry about this for the 100, but for the 200, absolutely. If you're going to stop, say, at the halfway point, get some of this on there, and if nothing else, it's going to help flush out some of the dust that's accumulated on the surface. And I'm forgetting, wipe down with this guy, then put some of this on top. Wipe the surface dust off, flush out the dust that's beginning to penetrate into the crevices of the chain, and you're going to be good for the next 100 miles. For those of you riding the 50 and the 100, truly hot wax or Super Secret is really going to be your way to go if it's dry. If it's wet, for all these conditions, I'm going to say 2 things. One, the wet, harsh conditions on the test machine, and that is 250 watts, sprayed with water and drizzled with sand and dirt. We have a hot melt effectiveness of 100 kilometers. So you start to break down in effectiveness here at 100. But in those same conditions, Synergetic, it's running at about 1 watt lower efficiency, but it has a 200 kilometer life expectancy. It is the top life expectancy of any of the wet lubes that have ever been tested at zero friction. The other strategy you can employ here is to use the Super Secret blend and then go over it, each 100 kilometers or so with the Synergetic. We don't recommend that in normal conditions because the oil here that gets down into the chain takes extra work to clean out when you go to hot wax the chain again. But for a special circumstance like Unbound 200 in the rain, I would recommend that. Your early time in the race, you're going to be keeping dirt out, you're going to be running at a pretty high efficiency, and then as soon as that starts to kind of tick up and you're having issues with just the slop and the glop, you can really come through with the Synergetic and not only use it to flush out some of the slop and the glop, but really begin penetrating in there and maintaining the relative low friction and the life expectancy of that chain. So check out the further info below. I've got this chart, I've got this chart. I think you're going to find some fascinating stuff in there. But to everybody headed out this weekend, all the best of luck to you. Remember, carry your gear wipe, carry a little bit of extra lube, definitely carry some tire plugs and a pump. CO2 might not be enough to get you there, especially in some of the longer events. Pump you can keep using it for the entire event. If you have to use it 12 times, it's still there. Think about that, and yeah, best of luck, have fun, and we will see you next time.